I just wanted to go over how I hooked up this half horsepower washing machine motor because it's a little different than what I've seen on YouTube. This is a 3-speed half horsepower, so high speed is 1,725, medium is 1,140, and the low speed is 850. It came out of my parents' older style washing machine. The control broke and they just wanted a new one because parts of it were rusted anyway. And I was determined to get this going as a motor I could use for some project. But most of what I saw on YouTube was a little helpful, but it wasn't the same configuration as mine. The main difference is, see, I have the wiring harness from the washer. I use that to rig it up. This common from the wiring harness plugs in here. And that unit in there must be the overheat protection. And I believe that's the common for all 3 coils. So if you're checking for resistance with your meter, you have to check from each of these wires to this common. You're not looking for pairs in here, like with what I've seen in other videos. I found mine to be blue was the high-speed coil, orange, white was the medium, and white with the purple stripe on it is low, but oddly with low speed the capacitor won't start it. You have to go to a high speed first and then down. Even if you do give it a twist to get it going, it won't spin fast enough to disengage the starter coil. But if you do go faster and then shift down or switch down into low speed, it will have disengaged and it won't re-engage again until it goes much slower. Also, if you're using the wiring harness, you don't have to wire the case ground to this screw. Basically, I mean, that one, call it whatever you want. Because it's actually in the wiring harness and into this middle prong here and goes back out the cord. I'm even using the stock washing machine cord. See, it all connects up. I saved it all. So I threw together this with 2 2x4s and pieces of plywood, drilled some holes and put some switches in. And there is my wiring configuration. I will take it out and explain it. First I will unplug it. Okay. So here you have hot coming in from the wall, I'll say, and if I turn it, if I apply electricity to the orange one, it comes over here where you get your choice of high or medium. If you apply electricity to this one, it goes directly to the low speed coils. I did that because the capacitor and the starter coils won't start that speed anyway, so there's no point in getting it working with the starter coils. But if to this jumper, you've got hot going to the middle, and then from that middle you got hot going to the other middle on the other side, because this is a 2-circuit switch. If you're down, it actually applies electricity to the blue wire, which is your high-speed coil, and it also applies to this jumper, which goes over here, and it gets a little complicated. In either position, whether you're on medium or high, it puts current into the middle. I bought this switch from McMaster Carr. I liked it because it has no middle position. It's either this way or that way, yet it's 2-circuit. I wanted this one because I didn't want to have the motor in a position where it would be starting without the capacitor and starter coils to get it moving. It would just be buzzing, but I just didn't like the idea of having off as an option with this switch. I put common on this side. So this is for the capacitor, by the way, if I didn't mention that. There's the red and the yellow, the red and the yellow. And then I had to jumper, because when you're making red hot, yellow has to go to neutral. So I took a jumper and went from this side, from this side over to here. So when this switch is on and red is hot, then this is also on to neutral, and I did the same thing to the other side. If anybody wants to know how I did it, I'll actually draw it up because I don't feel like I'm explaining it very well, and I'm sorry about that. But in any case, there's the capacitor in there. I came back outside to add a little more explanation because when I was watching the videos, I noticed that I didn't stress the point that it's the capacitor or the starter coils that decide which way the motor goes. And let me show you what I mean. Okay, so I've disconnected the capacitor. And be careful of these, they will shock you if you don't handle them properly. So now when I high or medium or whatever, it's just going to buzz. So this capacitor running through the starter coils influences which way it's going to go. So if I were to spin it, I can get it going by hand. But the way you can control that is so red is one side. With that switch, say right now I'm in clockwise, I have energy flowing through the red wire, through the capacitor, through the starter coil. The yellow is then the other side of the starter coil, which comes back to this switch. And this prong is in the off position, but there's also this orange jumper that I made that goes up, and I don't want to get my fingers in too much because it's hot right now, but up and over to that prong, which is in the on position, which goes to the neutral. And then if I were to turn it opposite, now the yellow is the hot, flowing, I guess you could think of it as backwards to the starter coil. Capacitor doesn't care what side it's on, but then it's coming back, and the red is the one acting as the neutral in a way. And then I also have a jumper from where the red is going over to this prong here, which when the switch is in that position, that one comes out the neutral. So I have the neutral spliced here with the wire nut. So that's what dictates if it's going to go clockwise or counterclockwise, or if you keep the capacitor off and just give it a spin yourself. But why not have full control? That's the point. I'll just do a little demonstration. So what if you want it to run counterclockwise, high speed, go. Great. But now I want it to run clockwise, medium speed, but now I want it to run counterclockwise, low speed. So what do I do? Because low won't start with the capacitor. So just go to medium and then quickly back down to low. See, no problem. Anyway, it wasn't as easy to explain what I did as I thought it'd be, so if anyone has any questions, ask me.